Welcome back to the Octavius Gould Experience, and I am your host, Octavius Gould. It's been a while since my last episode, and I've missed this. It feels good to be back behind the mic. Over the past several months, I've taken time to reflect, coach leaders and executives, as well as observe what's happening across the leadership landscape. If I had to sum it up, I'd say technology is accelerating faster than leadership development can keep up. And that gap is costing organizations not just performance, but people. Today, let's talk about how leaders can stay human in the age of artificial intelligence. Whether you're leading a team, operating a small business, running a company, or developing leaders like myself, this episode is for you. As an executive leadership coach, I've witnessed a technological shift that has changed how leaders have shown up. Some professionals are even afraid that they'll eventually be leading machines, not people. The challenge isn't tech, it's how leaders adapt to it. My friends, AI isn't the future, it's the present. It's already rewriting how we hire talent, how we communicate, and how we make decisions. I've witnessed a great deal of change over my 28 years as an executive leadership coach. I actually believe that AI doesn't replace leadership, it exposes it. Leaders who rely on authority are struggling. Those who lean into trust, empathy, and adaptability are rising. The most valuable skill in 2025 isn't technical, it's relational intelligence. The best leaders aren't trying to be the smartest in the room. They're working to be the most self-aware. If technology can do the task, what's left for you to do as a leader? When your team feels uncertainty, do they experience your confidence or your control? Are you leading with transformation or reacting to it? I've coached a senior vice president for several months who evolved from fear of AI to empowerment by shifting from control to curiosity. Once she stopped trying to tightly manage every outcome and instead began exploring what AI could teach her, everything changed. She started experimenting, asking better questions, and seeing AI as a creative collaborator rather than a threat. That mindset shift not only improved her efficiency, but also reignited her sense of possibility, turning anxiety into innovation. Progress begins when we release control. I've seen leadership trends come and go, but never at this speed. Here's what's interesting. The tools keep changing, but the principles remain. And here's 3 leadership truths. 1, clarity is the new currency. Communicate with purpose, not perfection. AI can analyze data, but it can't align people. 2, emotional intelligence beat artificial intelligence. Empathy, curiosity, and humility separates managers from leaders. And 3, adaptability outpaces expertise. Expertise expires at a certain point, while adaptability compounds. Great leaders who I've been around ask, what do I need to learn next? When was the last time you let your team see you learn out loud? How are you developing emotional intelligence intentionally, not incidentally? And if you coach yourself today, what do you need to unlearn? These are definitely questions you need to ask yourself as you sit and do some self-reflection over the next month and a half prior to going into the new year. Another story I want to tell you today, a skilled executive who I coached last year realized that mindset, not skill set, was the limiter. For years, he had invested into training, invested in certifications and strategies, and yet His team remained stuck in cycles of overthinking and hesitation. So one afternoon during one of our coaching sessions, he had this uncomfortable realization. It wasn't a lack of knowledge holding him back, it was fear. Fear of being wrong, fear of failing publicly, fear of losing control. That insight hit harder than any workshop ever would. So he decided to experiment. Instead of insisting on perfect plans, he began meeting by asking his team members, what can we test this week? Within a month, his team's energy shifted. Mistakes became data, not disasters. Ideas flowed freely. His team members laughed more. Now, revenue didn't spike overnight, but confidence did. And that changed everything. The leader who once prided himself on having all the answers had finally discovered, my friends, that the real power of leadership was creating space for curiosity and growth. That was a cool discovery on his part. Let's now bridge technology and humanity with 3 practical moves. Lead with awareness. You should notice when you default to control instead of curiosity. Ask yourself this: am I trying to solve or to understand? The second thing, empower with empathy. Listen before you lead. Remember, people still crave recognition, belonging, and purpose everywhere. And then decide with discipline. Use AI for insight, not to replace instinct. You have to filter data through values, not just metrics. And take a minute to think about this. What would it look like if your leadership became more human-centered and less habit-driven? Imagine pausing long enough to truly see people behind the performance metrics, to notice their ideas, fears, and motivations before defaulting to process or productivity. That would be nice, right? Because I believe with true conviction that when leaders shift from autopilot to awareness, cultures transform. People feel seen, not managed. Creativity becomes a shared language rather than a buzzword. I hope my words inspire you all to think about what ripple effect that could actually have across your teams or even your organizations. Another question to marinate on is this: how might innovation improve if you led with more curiosity than certainty? Certainty feels safe, but it often shuts the door of discovery. Curiosity, on the other hand, my friends, invites possibility. And I believe it creates a space where people feel safe to question, to experiment, and bring forward unconventional ideas in business environments, whether it's a small business or even corporate America or nonprofits. But think about this. What breakthroughs might be waiting just beyond your current assumptions? And I actually coach senior leaders on how to challenge assumptions made by upper management, but let's save that for a different podcast where we talk about the need to have courage. Here's another question you all listening or watching my podcast should ask. What if your greatest leadership move wasn't having the answers, but asking better questions? Let me repeat that. What if your greatest leadership move wasn't having the answers, but asking better questions? A VP at a growing tech company noticed morale dipping as her team expanded. Instead of relying on generic praise or one-size-fits-all incentives, I encouraged her to use technology to amplify genuine connection across her organization and team. Long story short, by analyzing project data and collaboration patterns, my client identified each team member's unique contributions, like who quietly mentored others, who consistently delivered creative solutions, or who bridged communication across teams. Then she began offering data-informed recognition in weekly meetings. We actually discussed the importance of it being specific, personal, and meaningful. She also used an AI-powered tool to design personalized development paths based on each person's strengths and career goals, which was really impactful. Within weeks, the energy across her organization shifted. People felt seen, not measured. Engagement scores rose, but more importantly, trust within her team deepened. Technology didn't replace her leadership, it extended it, turning insight into empathy and data into deeper human connection. And that's what leadership is all about. My friends, nearly 3 decades of executive leadership coaching taught me that technology may lead the race, but humanity wins the marathon. The leaders who thrive aren't just efficient, they're authentic. They don't hide behind automation. They use it to amplify empathy, vision, and purpose. Now, what I would love to hear from you all over the next week or two is what's one human leadership skill you'll strengthen as AI reshapes the world? And you can message me on LinkedIn or visit my contact page on my website, which is www.octaviusgould.com, www.octaviusgould.com. I may feature your reflection in a future podcast episode. Thank you for joining me for the return of the episode today from my podcast, The Octavius Gould Experience. And as you know, I am Octavius Gould, reminding you that leadership isn't about keeping up with technology's pace. It's about keeping faith with the people who depend on you every day. Your team members, your customers, not just your external customers, but your internal customers, strategic partners within your organization. My friends, if you covet compelling content on entrepreneurship or leadership or professional development, please hit like, share, and subscribe to my podcast so you can be alerted to future episodes. I truly appreciate your time today, and I'm looking forward to having compelling guests who can bring insight into leadership and development that will give you a roadmap to success. Have a great day. Carpe diem.